Welcome to USL Live and to the Season 24 Preview Show. I'm your host, Romulocks, and the USL Live podcast is a weekly show where we break down the competition and look ahead to the action and what we can expect to see in this, our 24th season of the Unified Skirmish League. To help me do that, I am honored and privileged to welcome into the broadcast booth my co-host for the preview show in no particular order. First up, we have Mecca.
Howdy.
We have Yosh.
Ni hao.
We have Bowen.
What up?
And we may or may not have Splittah. To be determined. He's stuck in the garage, I guess. For more information on the Unified Skirmish League, including the newly posted Season 24 schedule, updated rosters, or to sign up to play in this historic online gaming league, we ask that you please visit uslzone.com. Guys, let's welcome in the start of Season 24. The agenda for the show today will be as follows. First up, we're going to look at the squads in alphabetical order using the rosters current as of September the 8th, 2024. As we go through each squad, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to weigh in by breaking down their estimation of the strengths and weaknesses of each squad, predict a likely starting lineup, and assign to each squad an overall power ranking for where they predict each team will finish after regular season play. I want to stress that doesn't talk about playoffs, which could be a completely different beast. Once the votes are collected, we will issue USL Live power rankings for Season 24. We'll then talk about Week 1 games, discussing the matches, and do our best to predict the Week 1 results. Then we're going to turn to Bowen, and we're going to talk to our Season 24 League Administrator. He's going to announce the list of changes for Season 24. We're going to talk about maybe rule changes, any class restrictions, and obviously the new map rotation and map selection. So without any further ado, let's do the breakdown for the squads of Season 24. First up in alphabetical order, we have Cats. What looks to be Warhawks Light, essentially, a roster styling Aerith, a.k.a. Staley, Aloe, a.k.a. The Gift, Bonds, also known as Hustler, Fairfax, God's Bravest Medic, Head, Legacy, Pandy, Slob, Soul, Tactical, Vicinia, and Yami Kenichi. Take us away, Mecca.
Yeah, so let's start with the starting lineup. I think it's going to be Ernie, Legacy, Soul, Fax, and Pandy for sure at Marine. Pandy does have some issues showing up late. I do believe that the starting meds are going to be a combination of Slob, TG, and Staley, because I know TG said he wants to med, and he's been medding in all the SBs this season, so that's an interesting turn. Also Ernie leading, so I think I would stay with, and maybe Staley Marine, so Ernie, Legacy, Soul, Fax, Pandy, Staley, and then TG and Slob Medic.
Yosh, what you got?
So, I think Mecca's lineup is pretty spot on, to be honest. Except I would probably put, take one of the Marines out. I don't know which one. And probably put, Head in. I think Head played pretty well in the draft league for CTF. Congrats to CTF for holding their first draft league. That was amazing. But other than that, Mecca's lineup's pretty spot on. You could see some fluctuation. Maybe Yami gets some more game time in this season. That'd be nice to see what he's able to do on a higher tier team.
Bowen, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the lineup's pretty spot on. I am curious to see how Head looks this season as well. I believe he's had some skirmish experience way back in the past, and he was solid then. So I don't anticipate he's actually going to be bad at all. But he's a bit of a swap out, right? So kind of depends on who shows and who doesn't, and everything else. But yeah, man, I think that lineup's pretty accurate.
I'm going to echo the sentiments of all you guys. I do think this is kind of a Warhawks light lineup, and the reason I say this is because it is the core group from Warhawks. It's Gift, Tactical, and Friends, essentially. And along with, in this season, they're adding a bunch of CTFers, and I love to see that. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these players progress over the course of the season, especially under the wings of two players like Gift and Tactical. But I think that Mecca is exactly right, where you've got that solid starting five. You've got Staley, Gift, Fairfax, Legacy, and Tactical for sure. And then it's a question of who shows up after that. I think Soul and Pandy are obvious starters if they're there, and that gets you up to 7. But the question is, how many games are you going to get either one of them for? I don't know. But filling in the roster after that, you've got Slob, who I expect to play a whole lot this season, honestly. Yami Kenichi, who I do think will get a good shot at getting in games. And I agree with you guys. I think Head is definitely a guy we're going to see a lot of. He definitely has a place on this team and maybe even a place in the starting roster, depending on how he shows up. I think that's kind of a question over the course of the season is who are going to be the starting 8 for this team, because I think you do have a starting core. You just don't have the outside edges. But yeah, I would expect, like Mecca brings up, that Gift and Staley are probably going to be prime medics. It's a question of, can Gift stand to play medic if they're not doing as well in the murder department? Does he switch back over to Marine just to give them the firepower to really compete against some of the other squads? That'll be interesting to see as well. Any final comments on Cats before we move on?
This is Pandy's year. This is
it.
it.
It always starts as Pandy's year, and then it goes on from there. Let's move into Crusaders. Bax's team, his roster, it started as a meme and it turned into the real thing. The roster is Bax, Chica, Fresh, Horizon, DeJesus, Joe, Kaga, Manu, Metal, -0, Oct, Scarface, aka Torch, Smack Rock, and Universal Soldier 2K. Mecca, what you got?
Yeah, so this is kind of a guess too, because I know Kaga might not be here the whole season, including him anyways. Kaga, Bax, Oct, probably Oct demo, Bax, Sniper on some maps. Scarface, Uni, and Fresh. That's the Marine or Killer lineup. And then I think it's going to be some combination of Chica, Manu, and Negi. But the season Manu doesn't show every week, neither does Chica. So I think those 3 are going to be like some sort of combination backfield, almost like in the season. I think they'll do okay. On maps that Sniper's good on, like KR is actually a pretty good map for Bax. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. Like he'll get his kills, but as a leader, he's not going to be anywhere near his team. So I think they'll struggle with that. But overall, the lineup is not awful, and they should have some pretty good production from the medic department.
So I think that Chica's going to end up being the starting med here, which is pretty good. After last season, she didn't really get a fair shake, on the team that she was on. So it's good to see her back in a starting role because they need her. And Neg is obviously going to be their second med. He's just going to show every game. Does he rage quit from the roster? We'll see. I mean, he already did once this season, so we'll see if he does it again. I'm interested to see in how Smack Rock and actually Metal does. Metal coming off of the draft league captaincy. Kind of a shock to all of us that he was captain over, and shocked most of the USLers that he was a captain in PL. But I'm interested to see how he does on this team. He can really carry the load for them, and when he's not in that leadership capacity. And I just want to see what Smack is able to do. I've seen him in a couple scrims. Looked pretty solid. And yeah, I think this is a pretty interesting team. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think Smack has really kind of come of his own as of a support LNG role. Like he's done really well at suppressive fire with that role here recently, in both pub and in skirmishes. I feel. So if he starts with that, I think they run very support heavy in general, being where they are. If Back snipes, I feel like that puts them in a handicap, as I always do. But yeah, I mean, starting 8 backs, Chica, Kaga, Manu, Negi, Ock, Scarface, Smack Rock. I mean, it's kind of my thought, but Uni could just flip in there somewhere. There's a couple of what ifs. So
I don't disagree with anything you guys are saying. Again, I hate to be redundant, but I am also like Yosh said, I'm happy that Chica's going to get a legitimate shot at medic for the season. I kind of see, maybe I'm just missing something, but I think that Manu will play medic for this squad. You're saying Negi will, maybe he will, but I think that they have 3 obvious choices on that, and I'll be interested to see who ends up being the starting meds for the majority of the season for sure. Obviously, Bax is going to be out there every game. I see a lot of Oct on the field as well, like you guys are saying. Kaga will be there. They called him his all-star on the roster, and I do think Kaga is far and away the best player on this team. And the question is, who's kind of the second Marine there? I think that I'm not sure how active Torch is right now, but but Torch is the second best Marine, in my opinion, on this roster, and in terms of what he can bring to the team. And I think behind Kaga, between him and Bax and Kaga, that could be a really deadly trifecta. And I wasn't even thinking about it, but Yosh just brought it to my attention. They do have Metal, and if you look at the way he's played, Metal can do a lot of stuff between Marine or Medic. But I think with another Marine position, he could add a lot of firepower to this team as well. And if Smackrock is playing well, I mean, you could actually have a really legitimate 6-7 players on this roster that help you compete a lot. It's just a question of who shows up and kind of what formation they decide to go with. So I think they're kind of blessed with almost too many options, and that's kind of the one question I have too, is that you got guys like Joe and a bunch of those CTFers, even Universal Soldier 2K, who I think will get a lot of playing time, but there's just a lot of guys that may not get to play a lot, and I hope that everybody's okay with that. We may see some movement from the squad at some point. Let's move on now to Degeneration X, the roster for a team that looks conspicuously like ATW or over 9,000. The roster is, excuse me, sorry, is Colossal, Doc, God, aka ESO, HBK, aka Mecca, Iron, Mercy, Nosekeeper, Posty, R, Sav, Stavadine, and Thor, aka Demon, who I think changed his name to Alpha today, Typhoon, and then Yosh. Mecca, you care to talk about your squad?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because I know there's a few people, including myself, that are going to be gone for a few weeks this season. So I think there's going to be quite a few different starting lineups. So I'm going to give you 9 that I think will play pretty consistently. I think it's going to be Sav, Eric, Iso, myself, Colossal, and Iron does want to Marine some games too, so I think he'll do there. And then Stavadine, Nos, and then some combination of Yosh and Typhoon. Like I said, there's a few people missing some weeks, so I think that all 9 of those people will probably have at least 5-6 games. So I think that there's going to be like a more spread out playtime this year too, especially with the new rules about head to head and everything. So you don't have to be as sweaty. You'll see a lot of our not stars playing more again, as opposed to last year where they didn't really play a lot.
Yeah, this is a season that, hopefully we can get a lot more spread time play spread out between everybody, picking up, guys like Posty and Grump, also known as Doc, which is a medic from way back in the day. I'm interested to see how those guys, come into our system and how they play with us. Done a couple SBs with Doc already, he's fit in pretty seamlessly. I was on Posty's draft league team, but I haven't really got to play with them in USL yet, so that's a thing. But Mecca pretty much hit it on the right on the head here. We have people that aren't going to show for some weeks at a time, so there's really an opportunity to come in and actually start some games here. Stavudine coming into our roster is pretty big in my opinion. He's one of the best meds, and it's very, very nice to be able to have that solidifying presence that I felt like we were missing last season. Iron, I think he wants to Marine this season, that's cool. He'll put up big numbers. I think he'll be an easy top. Well, let's say top 5 Marine. Yeah. Other than that, it looks pretty much similar to last season.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the roster and it's just like, I mean, what 8 would I pick, right? I mean, you could literally pretty much play any 8 players from the squad and probably be pretty successful. On a actual dime, I put in 9 of Eric, Mecca, Sav, Yosh, Nas, Iron, ESO, Stavudine, and Colossal. But like, I mean, legit, you could swap out Typhoon in there anywhere. There's and Doc is actually a lot better. Like, I tried to pick him up. Doc was a good med back in the day, and I expected him to carry that over. So, pick your poison, really.
I'm calling it now. Nos, best Marine in the league.
I don't doubt that.
I wouldn't doubt it either. Definitely could be number 1 overall. Bowen, you're exactly right. It's just a question of which 8 do you pick, and you could pick almost any you could pick your worst 8 and still be one of the best squads this season, I think. and you're just blessed that way. You've got a lot of people. It's the good thing about the rule change, which now says that squads head to head determines their playoff potential, not so much the aggregate of all their kills. I think that is going to allow a team like over 9,000 Freudian slip Degeneration X to play a lot of the guys further down roster. And I think that's going to be really cool for some of the guys that are otherwise maybe wouldn't see the field that much. But it is a question of who is that person. I mean, Typhoon is further down the roster in my opinion, but my God, has Typhoon been playing well the last 2 seasons? I think R deserves a spot regularly playing. Posty as well. What an incredible story from last season, and the runner-up Cave Beast. So I mean, like, there's a lot of options for you guys. You look so very strong. And I did just want to mention, you guys just talked about Doc. We just to put it in the record books here. Doc and I, we just reunited in Discord. When we started Skirmish League way back when, a lot of the guys went to, I think there was War Dogs, the Alliance, and Envy, and a couple of other teams that were forming. And we're trying to get that 6th, 7th, and 8th squads out there. And one of the teams that formed was Cygnus. And Doc Azariax and I ended up on that squad together. I played his hat trick back then, and we just had a reuniting from all the way way back then. We had not played together since then, and that was 2001, 2002. So just absolutely incredible. It's great to see him come back. This game has so much nostalgia, and I just think it's so cool that you get to hang out with friends who are, maybe I haven't seen you in 20 years, but we're going to play this season again together. I think that's just so cool. So anyway, without any further ado, let's move on to our next squad, which is New World Order. New World Order's roster is Brillheart, C, a.k.a. Pister, England, G, a.k.a. Splittah, Heavy Rubber, a.k.a. Abath, Kevin, Keystone, Keystone, a.k.a. Hop, sorry, Leak, Ninja, 1, a.k.a. Havoc, Samara, a.k.a. Danny, and Spoils.
Yeah, I think they're going to have the same issue they did last year. I think they have too many starters again. I know basically this is, pay pigs without SV, so FUSV essentially. But I'm going to try here. I'm going to say Pister, Splittah, Kevin, League, Danny, and then some combination of Ninja T Hop, because, none of them are really reliable to show every week. And then I think it's going to be Havoc and Brill med. I know Brill has been medding a lot in SPs. He medded a lot last season. I would like to see him med the whole season. And I think you will see Abath, a.k.a. Dead, med of quite a few games as well. So some combination of that.
Yeah, this is pretty much a revamped roster between Pay Pigs and Pister Squad of last season. And he's kind of taken the best parts of both of those teams minus the meds, right? I think Havoc is going to be pretty key for this roster if he meds. I don't think they need him to Marine in this roster. I think they have enough depth at Marine to kind of let him med and become one of the best meds in the game, right? I keep saying it every season, but is this the season that Danny pops off? Come on, King, I need you one time. Make me a believer. Well, I'm a believer, but make me correct, right? I think he needs to have a huge season for New World Order in order for them to really go where I think they can be. Brillheart's got lag armor. That's always pretty sweet. Pister is fired up after his performance in CTFPL. I expect big things from Pister this season. He's got to really come out the gate swinging to make people forget about that performance in PL. You got Split is interesting on this roster, right? I know him and SV had a pretty big falling out this season, this off season. It was kind of spicy what they were talking about. They didn't like each other, and this and that, and Splittah made SV and all this other kinds of funny stuff. I just got a kick out of that whole meltdown from them two. But I like him on this roster. He can be a focal point and really lead the offense here. And I think that's a role that Splittah does best in, is when he can lead the offense playing LMG. Kevin's a really good pickup on this roster. I didn't expect to see him here. I thought he would play with SV again. So seeing him here is kind of good to see him here. He adds a lot of Marine depth to these guys when he shows. Right, there may be a couple weeks where he's just not able to show up. I want to see Leak come back from last season. He really didn't make the impact that I thought he was going to be last season. Kind of, disappointed me a little bit. I expected big things from him, so hopefully he takes that last season, forgets it, shakes off the rust, and comes out and is a pretty big killer on this team. I want to see my boy Hop, STL legend himself, come out and do really well. I don't want to see him sitting any games. I want to see him playing every single game because I think he deserves.
Well, speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Splittah is actually with us now. Can you hear us, Split?
Yeah, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Indeed. We are just talking about NWO and what kind of roster strength you have and who your starting 8 are. Care to comment?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure who said it, but I think Mecca said that this is like very similar to PayPegs without SV, which I would say it's not remotely the same, and I'll tell you why. The biggest difference is obviously like who's leading and what's the formations and et cetera to that. So before with PayPegs, we had both SV, Manu primarily leading. In this case, we have Pister and Kev primarily leading. So obviously there's that big difference right there, right off the bat. And then if you add in the few, there's other differences. Obviously now we have Brill. In this team we have Brill, and then we also have Hawk and Ninja. Obviously spoils. I do think that that Ninja is one of those players that may not show for most of the matches, which kind of sucks because when you look at the lineup, you could easily say that he might be the best player on the whole squad, right? But with that being said, I do think that this squad overall is pretty decent. In terms of ranking, I'm not exactly sure if we went over ranking yet. Did we?
No, we're going to do the power rankings after this, but
after, okay,
yeah.
But yeah, overall, I would say that this team, it's relatively similar in terms of like skill set to PayPegs currently.
Yeah, so my top 8 so far looks like to me is Brill, Pister, England, Split, K, Leak, One, and Samara. I have the assumption that Ninja just won't show a lot of matches, which I just haven't thought. I also feel like Leak or Hop could be swappable, I guess. So it's a good roster. I do think we see Abbott's med some games as well. So there's some good players here. I'd be curious to see if Spole shows. He never really showed for us last season. There was some potential stuff going on there, but yeah, if he shows up, he could be solid. So
I think you have a really great core on this team, and you may have a definitive starting 8, which is kind of like maybe the strength this squad has. The question is who your meds to start out with. I think you should play Abath and Havoc. I think those two together are going to be a deadly medic combo. But you've got a great alternative if you can't do that. Brillhard off the bench is a backup med is no slouch at that position, so he'd be great if you don't have both of those. Also, you've got pretty much any of these guys could step into that role if necessary, but I think the rest of them are better served as Marines. And in that capacity, I'd probably do Pister, Splittah, Leak, Ninja, Samara, and Kevin, with Hop as your kind of your 6th man. So if Ninja doesn't show up, Hop is an easy slide in there, which it sounds like he probably won't be there a lot. But I think the question is, for me, England has difficulty with making it. England and Ninja both do with the time zone. But how many games do you get those two? Because those two could be a big part of the core of this team. And you could have the starting 8 on this team could be so strong, and you have 1 or 2 guys who can rotate very easily and have a very similar structure week to week, and that is easily the strongest part of this roster. And if they get if they get everything clicking, if they can get a path forward together where they understand how to move and how to operate and really focus fire, I think this team can make a run all the way. They're really, really, really solid in terms of the starting 8, and particularly Havoc and Abbott. Man, that's it, competing for one of the best medic rosters in the season this season. So, any final words about NWO?
I have a couple here. I don't think Abbott is your starting med here. I think it's Brillhart. I think he's a better player, to be honest. Not saying Abbott's bad or anything. I think Brillhart is just more knowledgeable. And the one SB that I watched, it seemed like he really had a grasp on what Pister and them guys wanted to do here. It's really going to be interesting to see how the pretty much this is a combination of two playoff squads from last season, how they kind of come together. Splitter, do you kind of want to talk about why you guys decided to move away from SV this season? Because it seems like
So why we
a core of you guys seem to shift over to Pister.
I mean, as much as I trashed SV and talk shit about him, honestly, there was no correlation. I think it was basically Kevin and Pister basically already had a conversation going about what was going to happen after the season was over, from my understanding. And then things just played out the way it played out.
Fair. And we get a lot of good squads as a result. I definitely like the results of that jumbling, so to speak, and it is kind of interesting to see where everybody landed. I think Splittah literally swallowed his microphone. All right. So let's move on to Nexus next. The roster currently is Bowen, DP, Dracolik, Enemy, Fausto, Mites, Mosh, MTR3, Phony, Romulocks, Center, Stoink, and the Great Chompy.
Yeah, I was having a hard time putting together this roster. I don't know if Fausto's going to be active or Bowen, if you're going to play yourself. I know you benched yourself a lot last season, but I'm going to try anyways. I'm going to say Fausto, Chompy, Draco, Phony, Mosh as Marine. And I think you fill in Stoink or Bowen as a 6th spot, maybe, 15, whatever. I think Stoink does deserve some playing time. And, if Phony's active, I think he should be Marine. And then obviously running Center as med as one of the better med duos last season. So I think it's going to be some sort of combination of that. I think we need to look out for Chompy to have a pretty big, pretty eye-opening season this season. He played pretty well his first season of Draft League and CTF as well, so keep my eye on him.
Yeah, this is pretty much the same Nexus core. I'm surprised Phony didn't move on. Good on him for sticking around. I know I was trying to get him to come med for us, but he decided, I guess, he wanted to stick with Nexus, so good on him for that. I don't want to see what I saw last season from these guys. I think there's so much. I think Bowen has done a pretty decent job at integrating new talent on this roster, and he needs to utilize it correctly. One of the key things for him is he needs to stay alive in these battles. I know he switched over to mousing, so hopefully that's providing some fruits of the labor there, and he's able to take advantage of his rezo and stay alive in some of these fights. I think it's time you move on from Fausto. I love the guy. I think he's a decent player, but he's not active. I think these guys need to be active in order to be good. DP, I mean, I like the guy too, but last season he showed that, maybe it's best to maybe put him on that yellow vest again, not have him play Marine. I haven't seen Draco. Enemy's a good pickup though. That's pretty solid. I want to see a big season from Mosh and MTR3. I think those guys have to really show out, especially with this new revamp Nader. I think MTR3 can really, really do a lot of damage if he plays the class correctly. Center, good pickup. Solid med. Esports godfather himself. I expect big things from him. Seeing what many considered a side grade. I thought he was going to take an upgrade, maybe to SV squad or something like that. But he just seemed to do a lateral movement here, which is pretty cool. The biggest pickup in my opinion, well, the two biggest pickups, well, yeah, I guess two, would be Stoink, which came from us, and my man himself, USL legend, soon to be, the Great Chompy, right? I've been hyping Chompy up for a long time, saying he's been a USL legend in pub, and now he's finally here. I had the opportunity to play with him on the Draft League, and it was a pleasure. He is definitely skilled. Could be the next NOS keeper if given the right, guidance and direction. and I look forward to seeing what that guy's going to do. One of the guys that is hidden on this roster is Mites, right? Now, I'll be honest, I don't like this fucking guy. I think he's an asshole. I think he's a dick, right? And I think he's going to get carved up when he
Bipolar.
comes here. Yeah, he's bipolar, and you know, I've heard some sketchy things when it comes to, you know, some of his views in the draft league, right? But this guy can play. Now, can he adapt not being able to wear carapace in 97% of the matches in USL, right? I think if Nexus can, or I think if Bowen can control his personality and not let him be a fucking nutcase and actually just chill and be a killer on this team, I think he could put up some surprising numbers that people won't see. But if, you know, he just shows up on Sunday and expects to dominate people, I think he rage quits within 2 weeks. Right? I think there was a meme that they used to talk about Flair having a weak mentality. This is the guy that has the weak mentality on the team. There's a couple other, I guess we should get into that a little bit later, but there's a couple other CTFers that are not on the roster here, or not on the rosters, that I would love to see on this team. Bowen has a unique opportunity to kind of train up some of these guys and get them active and become a potential playoff team if they can SB and play well on these maps. And Rom is going to be huge on this team. He has to come out, him and center, being the starting meds, really have to set the pace for this team. I'm looking for a big season from Rom. He had a season to unrust. You know, they took it in the teeth last season. I'm looking for a rebound season. If not, I'm going to be brutal on that commentary booth towards these guys.
I mean, to be honest, when I look at their lineup, it's not too much different than what it was last season, which is
You are
definitely
insane.
surprising.
You are insane. They have upgraded massively.
When the way I look at it, they still have Phony and Fausto and MTR, Bowen. Pretty much the core is there. Rom, and the SNTR. So the add-ons were Stoink and Chompy. Are those the only two? I'm not sure if there's any other
Stoink,
ones.
Chompy, Mites, and Enemy.
Oh, Might. Okay.
And
And
MTR.
Enemy. Okay, got it. I thought MTR was, or, oh no, MTR was, okay, got it.
Yeah, he was
So,
on there.
okay, got it. So the ones that I would say starting would be Fausto, MTR, Rom, SNTR, Stoink, Bowen, and Mosh, if I didn't say that already. As for who's probably going to be one of their key players, I would obviously say Fausto. I know that there was a discussion on Fausto probably not even being an ideal player. And I could see that because he's not obviously coming online. But then again, the whole squad is not really playing as a squad right now online either. So I guess the question mark is the activity for the squad. I mean, what we saw last season with Bowen, I mean, Rom obviously knew everything himself, but was the lack of activity, right? I know we're going to kind of touch on each squad, so I'll move on and let this one be for now.
Yeah, so I'll give some transparency to some conversations that have happened internally and such on this squad. So Mosh has upgraded some things in his life, so he may not actually be online. Period. He's pretty much on my roster right now as like I love Mosh to death. He's one of my best friends in this game, and I don't even want to replace him. But he's pretty much said he probably can't play. So yeah, so it's very unfortunate, but I mean, congrats to him for some upgrades he's had in his life. And I wish him all the best, of course. If he wants to play, he's more than welcome. But if he can't, like I said, congrats. Phony has also said he wants to med. And I would like to give him that opportunity because Phony is one of the best meds in the history of skirmish. So
Everybody.
well,
Cody,
so
if you want to bet, I got a place for you, bud. Hit me up. I'm ready. Let's get this going. I've been trying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's one of the best bets in the history of skirmish, and he proves it all the time. He played a little bit last season in scrims and showed it again. So I mean, I've got some guys here like Great Chompy. I was high on this guy as the first time I saw him. His aim is ridiculous. As we were talking about him, he went first place in CTF for 15 and 11. Like the dude can kill people, and it's insane watching him play. He just doesn't miss. Mites has that.
He's young. He's young Nas.
Yeah,
Chomp.
right. Right. I have a lot of high hopes for that guy, and he could very well push himself into be a starter if we can get our activity up, which is the next thing I can talk about for us is the fact that we have not SP'd a single time since the off season. And a lot of that is some guys were a little kind of burned out, like center especially. Like he doesn't like these late games because he hits up really early. All of us are almost our East Coasters. So it's really hard for us to really get anything going after about 11 o'clock. And lately, skirmish hasn't started till 11 o'clock. So we've been very inactive in the offseason. I'm hoping we can fix that this week. We've actually been talking about just trying to get some people online just to do it. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how these new guys play out. We'll see how these other guys that are around, have been around, play out. See how some of these changes look. I got a lot of guys who are willing to sit, stand, do whatever they want to do or need to do, and they're not ready to complain for it. So there's plenty of opportunity to mess around with this.
I completely agree that what happened last season cannot happen this season. That's for sure. And so we're talking about how to do the changes. Honestly, what I said to my squad, I'll say publicly here. I don't care if we lose. I care how we lose. And you know, we're not the most talented team in this league. But at the same time, we do have some up and coming talent. You guys keep mentioning Chompy. I haven't had a chance to really check him out yet, but looking forward to doing that. And guys like, you know, old school classic players like Phony and Draco that, you know, we got a good combination of new talent and old veterans that I think can be a thing of beauty on the field. And if we can just get our shit together, man, particularly if Fausto will get active and help lead this train, I think we can have a lot of fun and definitely improve on the name from last season because there were definitely some moments in that season that I would like to undo. So this is kind of the second lap to try to correct that, and we'll see how it goes. I really do like the squad, though. I like the people on the squad. And like Bowen said, we've got everybody on the team is willing to do what they need to do. Now it's just a matter of being active to really get the practice in that matters for Sundays. So I do see Bowen, Draco, Fausto, Phony. I see Enemy getting a lot of playtime this season for sure. Center, me, and definitely Stoink, and I think Chompy. I don't see Mosh playing a lot for the reasons Bowen mentioned. But if he ends up coming back and being available, hell yeah, we got Mosh as well. So we'll see where we go with that. Moving on to our final squad, we have Suicide Squad. The roster is a Wild Magikarp, aka Septicemia, Final, aka SK or Jake, Flash, Ghost Bomber, Sabotage, Shasta, Spartacus, aka Dave, That Dude, The Mountain, Fizz, and Victim. Interesting roster right now, and the question is who's starting.
Yeah, I had a hard time with this one too, but I'm going to try my best. I think the for sure for 5 are probably going to be Mountain, Sabo, Shasta, Ghost Bomber, Rapier, aka Magikarp as the Marines. I think I personally would put Fizz as LMG. I think he showed a lot as LMG more than he did Med. He's shot a little bit too much as Med. So, and then Flash and Victim as Med. And then if Dave ever shows up, you can move Fizz to Med, and Dave Marine, or Dave Med, whatever you want to do. I don't think Dave will ever show up, but it would be good if I think he adds a lot to the squad if he does. Veteran leadership voice. I just don't think he'll ever show up. But yeah, I would probably slot him in as Marine over Fizz LMG if he does.
Yeah, this team is interesting to me. This is like Paypig's lost a little bit of the core and kind of traded it for That Dude squad or NYPD squad from last season, right? You have Septicemia and That Dude, which I don't think That Dude's going to see any playing time on this team. But I think Septicemia not having to lead, we could actually see what this guy's capable of, right? Is he going to troll mid-match by going Nader, right? I think SV has enough control of the situation to, hopefully hone him down and be like, look, I need you to play LMG or Marine. Like one of those two classes, pick one. And I think you're going to be pretty good from that. My only kind of question mark about this team is they just need a couple more players, right? To really solidify a starting roster. Like you're solid. Like Sabo's probably going to play LMG, which is probably pretty good. And you have a good solid base here. You just need to build on it just a little bit, right? Your second med is, you know, a little bit kind of weird, but I think it's serviceable enough. I think Victim's awesome. SV has got to really carry the load on this team. If he can get Dave to show up, that's huge. Shas being on this roster is cool. I like to see that. He really gets to really be the star on this team, along with Sabo and Mountain on this team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys do. I want to see what Magikarp does when he doesn't have to lead.
Split. You're muted, by the way.
Back in the
Sorry
garage.
about that. There we go. I was in the garage, but I had to unmute myself. In any case, the people that when I count the players on this roster, by the way, it's 7 total that I can see starting. But Septicemia, so Wild Magikarp. I have Flash, Ghost Bomber, Sab, Shasta, the Mountain, and Victim. As for the medics, yeah, it would be Flash, Victim. I do think that Flash improved quite a bit over this last season. He's been playing way better. And overall, period. So I don't think that he's as bad as he used to be. With that being said, there's still a hole, as mentioned by everybody. Who fills it? It would be ideal if it was Dave, right? If Dave came back, that hole would be easily filled. If it's not, it would be ideal that they that they have to either play that dude or I guess Fizz, which is not obviously an ideal situation. I do think though, when I was watching that dude play recently in the last few SBs, that he's not as bad as I thought. I mean, I think everybody thought he was really bad because his poor metting. But when he switched to Marine, he definitely did. He looks a lot more serviceable as a Marine. He doesn't run into like nades as often as he would as a medic. Those type of things, I guess, was more obvious, I guess you would say, with the big role as a medic. With that being said, yeah, they've been SBing. I mean, the issue that they've been having is obviously using quite a bit of NTs because not all their players are showing. With that being said, I honestly do think they have to have at least one more recruit to kind of make sure that they don't run into a situation where they're, down a player in an actual match.
Yeah, it's I've been saying for a little while as well that they have an 11-man roster right now. I don't think Final is SK. He probably won't be here this season from what I've gathered talking to him before. I mean, if he is, cool. And then Dave, I mean, he hasn't been here in a while, but I'm hoping if he does show up, he'll be a huge help for the squad. But if he's not, then they have 9 people. And I would expect they play 7 as their starting lineup, as Split said. So I agree as well that dude actually, and I said all last season, like, stop playing med and play a kill class because you have the positioning for it. And just didn't do it because the rest of the squad, I guess, couldn't med. But him being on a killing class as Marine, he's definitely a bit better. And I agree with that too. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him pick up a couple more guys, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiments overall. I think that Suicide Squad need to focus right now on filling the roster, and they made a post on USL Zone asking for anybody from CTF who's interested to come over. I think they do need to fill a couple roster spots and fill the squad out because they're probably going to need it down the stretch. I do see it kind of the same as everybody else: Septic, Flash, Sabo, Shasta, the Mountain, Victim, and then the question is, who are your last 2? And if Dave was there, he's the obvious choice, but I agree he's probably not. So I think it's probably Ghost Bomber and Fizz. So you kind of have a steep drop off there at the end of the roster than you did at the beginning. I think the Mountain is clearly the man on this roster. I think he's the best Marine for sure. But the question is, can Sabo repeat what he did last season? Because I thought he had an excellent season. If he can, maybe he can give Mountain a lot of help. I think on this team more than last year, Mountain needs to be playing Marine. He absolutely needs to be playing Marine. And Shasta as well. Shasta, the Mountain, and Sabo. I think that could be the trifecta for this squad, and it could be a really strong one in terms of kill output. I think all 3 of those guys have a chance at hitting the 100 mark. for the season the way it's looking. So I guess let's see here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Jake shows up. I think Victim moved up to he's a definite starter on this roster right now, and I think that's kind of where he belongs. I think that they would be behooved to use him at medic as medic all season. I think he's such a solid medic, and especially on this team where you don't have a definite medic roles. Thiz, Victim, and Flash are probably, you could rotate any of the three, but I think it's probably Flash and Victim, and I think that's probably the best call for right now. I think they look really good. The question is, how are they going to do down the stretch, and do they have enough to show out every single week? And I think they need to get to recruiting to answer that question. So with no further ado, that is our breakdown of all 6 squads. Let's go ahead and do some power rankings. Mecca, start us off. Give us your 1 through 6, or you can go in reverse order, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through 6. I'm gonna go DX number 1. I'm gonna say they go 9-1. Cats number 2, 9-1. I think that there's a chance that we split. I don't want to jinx us by saying we're going 10-0 again, so I'm building that into my predictions. I think NWO goes number 3. I think they go 5-5. I think they lose twice to DX and Cats apiece. I think they split with Suicide Squad. So that brings me to number 4, Suicide Squad. I think they go 5-5 as well. I just think the NWO might have a chance to beat them head-to-head in one of the games by a little bit more, depending on where that is. So they're kind of interchangeable, but I have them 3 and 4. And then I have Crusaders and Nexus both going 1-9. I think they lose to everybody above them, and then they split with each other.
So my rankings are a little bit differently. I have the champions coming in at number 1, Cats. Right? They proved that there's a chink in the armor. They can beat us. Right? They crushed us last season. Crushed the spirits and the morale. The rations were taken. Right? And we're all hungry. So for that reason alone, I have Cats number 1. I have us at number 2. Number 3 through 5 is a little interesting to me, and you can kind of switch these around depending on maps, right? But I'm actually going to go for, I'm going to say Pister at number 3 here. I think he's got a good, solid team. And the last bit here, I really don't want to put them at 3 because I think SV, Shast, and Sabo is a problem for a lot of teams. But a lot of this depends on what maps that we're playing on. Number 4.
So NWO is 3 for you. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 3 for NWO.
Okay.
I want to put Mountain here at 4. But Bax, depending on if he gets some of these open maps, right? He can cause an upset on some of these teams. Right? My problem with SV's rosters, it's not deep. Right? He has a good solid 3 players that are, awesome. But after that, there's a steep drop off. A lot of it depends on Ghost Bomber or Septicemia, and those guys have been shown to have position errors last season. So fuck it. I'm gonna put Bax 4. I'm gonna say SV misses the playoffs unless he picks up another solid Marine. And then I have Nexus coming in last because of inactivity. And I think if they continue to go with Fausto, that's not the correct call. If they bench Chompy, it is the biggest mistake in the world. I will lose my damn mind if that happens because he is probably their highest potential player.
Yeah, I think this season might actually be definitely one of the most balanced seasons. I thought last season was the most balanced, but this one might even be more balanced in terms of how the matches play out. I do think that number 1 is obviously Sob's number 1 always. But with that being said, outside of Generation X, I do think that it's very likely that a lot of the teams take more than 1 loss. Inclusive with that is Cats. The only reason why I put them as number 2 is because obviously most of their starters right now just won a championship. But they're not the same teams that I seen last season. Obviously, things can change within the next couple of weeks, etc. But as for right now, I know for a fact that they're not playing the way they were playing that I saw last season. Currently, the way they're playing, I would say, is more like a number 3 or 4. So obviously, there's some if they don't get as active as they were previous, they will get a rude awakening this season for sure, for sure. But yeah, I would rank it very similar to how everybody else is ranking it for the most part. It is interesting to see how 3 and 4 shape up because, yeah, Suicide Squad as well as NWO, I could see that being a split 1-1 between both teams there. But with that being said, then you also have Crusaders, which is out there, and they're not backs. I mean, as much as we always diss backs, right? This might be his best squad that he's been in, right? And a few things changed. The sniper position as a whole, they have the extra buff with HP. I think that might be being added onto the season. The 80 HP, or was it 8? I mean, I think it was 60 HP hit. Either way, backs with the sniper right now is definitively a problem for most teams. I'm not saying that every match is the same, but when he's hitting, and it's when you add in all these other layers, right? The Ripper, Kaga, etc. These things, then you can actually have a chance, right? So I definitely think that Crusaders obviously could beat pretty much almost every team outside of DX currently. I think that they actually could surprise every team. With that being said, yeah, overall I have Crusaders as in this case number 5. So I'll rank it all from number 1 to down just to kind of be clear here. So I have DX number 1, Cats number 2, I have NWO number 3, Suicide Squad number 4, Crusaders number 5, Nexus. So that's the kind of consensus that I think everybody's also running right now too.
Yeah, currently Yosh has a little bit different. I think he has SS below Crusaders, but otherwise the same as everybody else. Bowen, what about you?
So I mean, yeah, same top 3, DX and Cats. I could see them splitting, or just DX going 10-0. Cats doesn't have Kaga, which is the big part of the Warhawks light piece. So I feel like this is kind of a 10-0 for DX and 8-2 for Cats. NWO could definitely see them being that 3rd place spot. I feel like they have some of the best depth of the squads up in the lower 4. The bottom 3 is interesting, and a lot of people have kind of said this. Like, there's a lot of factors that kind of throw into this. I mean, Nexus's activity, whether we find the right guys to kind of slot into different places, if we can actually get the activity to figure that out. Crusaders, if they all of them stay unbanned, if they they show their best players, if Max can be successful on the sniper, or if he goes LMG. And then Suicide Squad, it depends on if they can show the best 7 that they have every week. Because they only have that many kind of available on the roster, and even then their depth is kind of short. So I hesitate with it a little bit. So but I am gonna say Suicide Squad 4th, Nexus 5th, Crusaders in 6th. And all those can vary up heavily in like a week. So
yeah, this is one of the more fluid seasons we've seen in a long time. The as you said, the next 5, I would say that DX and Cats. I think this is D-Generation X's season for sure. I'll go ahead and make the prediction right now. You're champions. I think with that roster, you're champions. Unless something happens with Cats, like some crazy nonsense, like Kaga comes back to Cats. You have a big flip. Like that's the thing that this season could hold is if you see some big trades in the first 2 weeks, you could see the shape of these squads change a whole lot. And the shape just a little bit changing for any of these bottom 4 could mean the world of difference. And so I'm interested to see where that goes. But I generally agree with the consensus here. I'm going to go 1 through 6 here. We got D-Generation X number 1. I think Cats. I agree with you, Bowen, that they're gonna lose both those games to D-Generation X right now. So I think it's like a 10-0, 8-2 situation. NWO I think is 3. I think that they look really good. I agree that their depth is the strongest of the teams that are after them. I also have SS in 4th, although their activity largely defines that. If they don't get more players and they don't get more active, I think Crusaders could easily be above them. And then I have Crusaders 5th and then Nexus in 6th. We'll see if Nexus can pull it out, but last season didn't, it was not a good look, and there's going to have to be a lot that gets changed. So I definitely think it's going to be one of the more exciting seasons from a I don't know what's going to happen this week perspective. We'll see if I'm wrong on that prediction, but I really do think a lot of these squads, it depends on who shows up on Sunday, and it depends on how they play Sunday, whether it's passive, aggressive, what the map is. We're going to talk a lot about that stuff here in just a second, but overall, the season it could change a lot week to week, and I'm looking forward to seeing who the playoff squads are at the end. So tallying all that up, I think it's pretty much everybody's in agreement. The number one ranked squad preseason poll for USL Live is going to be D-Generation X. Number 2 is going to be Cats. Number 3 is going to be NWO. Number 4 is going to be Suicide Squad. Number 5 is going to be Crusaders. Number 6 is going to be Nexus. So those are the power rankings for USL Live. Let's move on now and do a real quick discussion of these season 1 games. Week 1 games, excuse me. We have 5 games this season, unlike past seasons where we had as few as 3. Almost every week this week, I think, does have 5 games. So we're going to be playing from 8:45 to the last game starts at 11:45. We'll finish obviously at 12:15. So let's go through those and talk about them one by one right now. The first game at 8:45 is D-Generation X versus Suicide Squad. What do we think, Mecca?
Yeah, I think DX takes this. The one thing is though that Suicide Squad does have home on KR, so that always it has been an issue in the past. I think our talent overall will just. I think we can expose some of their weaker players, especially on KR. Because even if you do camp, Mesa or Garage or whatever on Collie, eventually skill will run out or will win out, I should say. So I think we do win it, but I think that they will definitely put up a fight, giving their side on Collie, and then also they have some pretty good players. I know Sabo and Shasta are both pretty good on here. You can run Rapier as a Ripper on this map as well, which I think helps because I don't think he's a very good Marine, but I think he's a pretty talented Ripper. And if he doesn't have to lead and SV can put him in the right spots, I think he can be very effective on this map. And this is one of the better Ripper maps. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the reason why I ended up picking Crusaders over Suicide Squad is because I think this first match is going to set a lot of tempo for Suicide Squad. I expect them to go 7s every time. This is just what I'm seeing right now from them. And all it takes is one of those guys to have an off day, right? What if Shasta does it? What if Party Time Shasta shows up, right? Oof, right? If Sabo's not on his game, or if SV's not on his game, or Septicebia decides to troll a match, right? This being on KR, I'll be honest, I hate this season. I hate the format of it. I don't like this at all. I think this 3-map stuff is trash when we have 10 plus maps in the pool available. I think we should have ran, either a different map every week or something like that. I understand the rationale for it, but to me, KR is one of the worst maps. I mean, it's like legitimately 70-30 Holly side, right? Most of the fights are going to be around South Mesa, so I know what to expect on this map at least. And we're in for a fucking boring time, to be honest. So, I think, we win this match. I don't think we win it by very much. I think SV's smart enough to keep the numbers low, like he's done in the past, and to keep the score super respectable. They even have a chance of winning this match because it is Kali KR. I know SV's been super active. His squad may not have been, but he has been active, and that's kind of what you need, right? 7s is going to be lame. We're probably going to show 11, 12 at the minimum, and we're only going to be able to play 7 of those guys. So we'll see what happens. I think we win, but not by very much.
For DX versus Suicide Squad, I would give it to DX. Nexus versus Cats, and then the 3 headers that actually 2 headers that I would say that are going to kind of be interesting to see how those 2 play out. Cats versus NWO. I think that the NWO has pretty decent chance of winning, especially since the fact that we're going to be on the Collie side on KR.
Well, you're jumping ahead of us quite a bit there, but I mean, if you
Oh,
We're just doing DGen X versus Suicide Squad right now.
I apologize. I could bear. I was like, my headphones died, so I was like trying to like. Pull
He's
my phone
deep
to
in the
ear and
garage,
listen to you
folks.
guys. I was like, okay, which one are we doing them all? Okay. So which one are we doing right now? You said DX versus Suicide Squad.
Yeah, just who's gonna win that? In short.
Okay. Yeah, I would say DX, and that's simply because obviously that I don't think Suicide Squad is ready. They just simply don't have a full lineup, in my opinion, to potentially win this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, DX wins. In my opinion, I don't feel like it's going to be as close as you guys are making it. I mean, I appreciate the ability on that. But DX's roster is too extreme, even with it being Suicide Squad on Kali. I think DX's roster is just too much. So, yep.
I agree that it's just going to be overwhelming. Degeneration X has one of the strongest rosters I've ever seen. I do think that Suicide Squad though has more of a chance than Bowen's willing to give him. I think that Yosh said a moment ago that it's going to be a tempo setter game for Suicide Squad. I think that's very accurate. I think that if SV can get his guys humming early, if they can capture the first maybe the first or third battle or something, get a big win on that. That would be huge for them in terms of momentum gaining. They don't need to win this game necessarily. They just need to show themselves that they can keep it close. And if they do that, I think it will be a tempo setter for the rest of the season. So I think that's what their goal here is to do. I just wonder if they actually have the personnel to do it. I think they're going to have problems when they get to the end of that roster, the 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th man. I think they'll have problems down there. So in that sense, I think Degeneration X is going to take it by probably 25 or so. Let's move on to Nexus v Cats.
Mecca.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think this is going to be a blowout. Sorry, Nexus guys, but Cats has home on KR, so they're going to go Kali. I know some of the changes on the map has helped Titan a little bit, but I don't think it's helped them enough. I think this is going to be pretty bad. I see some of the top guys dropping 20 plus on this game. I just don't think Nexus can keep it close enough while playing on Titan on KR. So unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be a very close game.
Yeah, 75-25 on this. Cats win.
Yeah, I got Cats as well winning this one by at least 30 or 40 kills.
I mean, yeah, Cats is going to be hard to beat, especially coming from Titan, like you mentioned. So, yeah.
If we're going to improve, you go ahead, Bowen. Sorry.
No, it was not to down my squad, obviously, but yeah, I mean, Cats is tough.
If we're going to improve, it's going to be over the course of the season. It's definitely not going to be week 1. So I agree with you guys. Cats right now, it's most of the Warhawks, the championship team walking in there, and those guys are just so talented. They could be rusty and still do very well, and they're not rusty. So I think it could be 30, 40 kills as well. We'll do our best, especially to field 8. But moving on. We've got Crusaders versus Nexus. More of an interesting matchup, maybe. Let's go ahead, Mecca.
Yeah, who has home? Nexus has home on this.
Yep.
I think you guys can pull it out. I think, like I said, I think you guys split on the season 1-1. I think if you guys are going to split, having Kali versus Crusaders is going to be it. You guys just can't die snipes I mean, Bax is a good sniper, but like some of the snipes I see him hit, people are just like running in a straight line. You just can't do that. Just pretend it's SL, do a few zigzags once in a while, and he'll miss you. Like I just see so many people running out in the open in a straight line, running directly at him and then dying, and like, oh my god, I got hit by a sniper. It just once you counter that, I think that you guys match up pretty well against them. Oct is going to be pretty threatening as Ripper ammo, but I think you guys can unleash. You guys just need to get Chompy some SP time and unleash in this game, and you can drop 15 kills on.
Yeah, this is a bad time for Nexus to be playing Crusaders. I think Crusaders have been a lot more active, and I think they're going to win this game, and I think they're going to win it by 40 plus. I think Bax is a problem that the Nexus leadership doesn't know how to deal with, right? Especially this being his map, where it's being so open. This is a map that Bax could really tear up people on. So I think the score's going to end up being, I want to say like 80. Nah, we're going to go 75-35. Crusaders win.
Yeah, I have it roughly around the same as Cats, where they, in this case, Crusaders would win by at least 30 to 40 shots as well. And yeah, it's probably the best map for backs to be sniping, to be quite honest about it. On the and also the fact that
Split, can you
that
do a mic
next
check real quick? It's kind of messing up.
Sorry, hold
Yep,
on. Can
thank
you hear
you.
me better now?
Much better. Continue.
Okay, I have to put it right on my face. Okay, so yeah, so basically I was saying that this is probably the worst time for Nexus to be facing Crusaders. Obviously, Nexus hasn't been practicing, right? And Crusaders has been the actual opposite. They've been practicing every day, right? So, and then we also have that this is KR. I really don't think it's going to be close at all.
I mean, fair assessments. I would like to see us SB some this week. If we get some SCBs in this week, I feel a little bit more confident in our ability to win this one, especially being on Kali. But if we don't SB at all, like this becomes a problematic season in general. And we just need to be able to get in practice. So if I can get Chompy going, like you mentioned, if he comes out to be the monster that I think he's going to be, I see some good things happening, and this would be the match to show it. But we need to be online.
I don't disagree with any part of that. I think it'll be tighter than what Yosh thinks it will be. I do think Crusaders, their activity is going to sing out here, and I do think that we're probably going to fall to them overall. I don't know that that'll spell the rest of the season. I just think, most of our guys took an extended break at the end of season 23, and it's just going to be a little bit coming back. Whether or not we can perform better than we did overall last season, I think you'll find that out by week 3 or 4. I don't know that week 1 or 2 is really going to say it. Let's go on to Cats versus NWO. Maybe the most interesting match of the week, possible match of the week contender. Mecca, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think this one is going to be close too. I predicted that Cats goes 9-1, but looking at New World Order has Kali on KR versus them. Like I said earlier, with the changes, I think that Titan's better than it has been in the past on KR, but NWO could pull this out depending on who shows up for Cats and who shows up for New World Order. Like if you get Ninja showing up on KR Kali, I think they have a legitimate chance to beat Cats. I think Cats roster is not nearly as good as it was last year, losing Kaga and Stodine, and moving TT from Marine Med. I think that it's basically a different squad. So I think that you can pick on TG and slob a little bit on KR if you're NWO, if you get your good Marines to show up. It's Pister, so he's not going to push the advantage. He's just going to sit Garage and under Mesa. So if they can hold that and Cats can't find a way to break it, it could be a game that NWO wins. I think Cats will win overall, just too much talent, too much experience. But I also would not be completely shocked if they lost.
Yeah, this is an interesting game. It could go either way, but I think Ernie is too strong, right? I think there's too much experience on KR for Pister, even though they do have Kali. I think once they lose the first battle, which is going to be key for most of this, I think if the Pister loses the first battle, Cats runs away with this game. If not, if they win that first battle, keep it close, then we're going to be in for a game.
Yeah, I think Cats currently right now are. I think eventually they're going to get way better, and I think that's why I have them with the number 2. But right now, as is, I don't think that they're in full form currently, and that's because of the lack of activity as well for them. And they're not the same squad they were previously, like last season. They lost, like you said, Kaga, and with that and Stab as well. So those two those two players are really key for their previous championship win. Obviously, they're stacked still. Currently, probably second best lineup in the league. But with that being said, yeah, because NWO has the Kali advantage, I do think that that it's going to be close, and I do think that we'll probably win it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to keep it short. Same thing. I mean, Cats. This will be close, but I do think Cats wins this.
This is an interesting question. Is Cats ready to roll? Is the question, because NWO definitely is. I definitely think this is going to be the game of the week. I definitely think this is going to be a lot tighter than many probably would guess. I will probably put it at I'll put Cats take it, but I think it's going to be right down to the wire. Honestly, the way I see it rolling, I think NWO is going to want this one really bad. I just don't think they're going to be able to come out with it. Kind of for the reasons that you guys said in the beginning. Tactical on KR is just going to be devastating. Let's go to Suicide Squad versus Crusaders, the final match of the week.
I think Suicide Squad wins this pretty easily. I think Bax will probably end up ranking because it's KR and he's a sniper. But I think it's going to cost his team. I think the rest of his team is just going to get farmed. I just don't see a lot. I mean, maybe Kaga does show up for this one, which I guess he probably will. So that'll help a little bit. But other than Kaga and Bax sniping, they don't have much to combat Suicide Squad with. So I think Suicide Squad wins pretty decently on them. I would think probably like 40, 45, somewhere in there. I think you see Sabo and Rapier have pretty good games on this.
If Bax is going to make the playoffs, this is the game to do it, right? If he loses on this map where the advantages are all stacked in his favor, he has KR, he has Kali, right? All these factors is why I picked them to be the 4th seed. I think they win this game. I think they narrowly edge it out. I think it's going to be 7v7. It's going to be a very slow-paced game, and that favors a sniper, right? If Bax can pick off a player, pick off Ghost Bobber, pick off Septicemia, especially if Septicemia plays Ripper on this map, he's just going to get carved alive. So, I think Crusaders win this map by 3.
This is a tough one because it could go either way. I know that for some reason I feel like a lot of people are kind of like not thinking that Sniper could be effective. Obviously, because we've seen how Bax played it before, and I think part of their issue before really was the fact that he didn't have the right lineup. Not saying this lineup is like a huge, like an amazing lineup here, but with that being said, it's definitively a lot different. Yeah, and not to mention that we have Ripper now, so holding positions for snipers to shoot from, it's a lot easier for Bax now to actually play that role. So yeah, it's interesting. I definitely do think that Suicide Squad has the advantage, even though they're on the wrong side. I do think that it could be very close. I do think that with Kaga, if Kaga shows with back sniping, that it's definitively going to be a problem, right? Just those 2 players alone could break battles open. So yeah, I think it's going to be close. I think that Suicide Squad probably wins within a 10 kill or less margin.
I mean, yeah, honestly, if Crusaders shows their best 7 here, and Kaga is included in that and shows up and Bax goes off, like they could legit win this game. I do expect it to be close. If Kaga doesn't show, though, I expect SS to run away with it a little bit. So it depends if he's there, and we'll see how it goes.
I agree. A lot of X factors in this game. Kaga probably being the biggest one. Also being the performance of whether or not Sabotage is there, how he performs, and SV. But I think if Suicide Squad is humming, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, I think they very easily can get the win here. But like you said, if Bax if Crusaders can play the game slow and hold off the SS advance, particularly if Kaga is there, and allow Bax to have time to hit those snipes. I played an SB against him last night, and he lit us up. So absolutely, he can be a huge factor in a game like this. Whereas against like maybe Degeneration X, he wouldn't have as much of a chance. But when you've got your 6th, 7th, and 8th guy made up of kind of inexperienced CTFers, I totally think it's possible that Crusaders could pull this off. So we'll have to wait and see. I kind of lean towards Suicide Squad, but don't be surprised if Crusaders pull an upset here. And Yosh is exactly right. If that's their march to playoffs, it goes through this game. So right out of the gate, they really need to get this win and the win against Nexus. And Crusaders could be looking at a huge season ahead of them. So, all right, that'll do it for the week 1 predictions. Next up in our segment, we're going to go to Bowen here, our new league administrator. Congratulations on that again, my friend. Can you please update us on all the changes that have happened in this offseason, kind of what they look like for season 24. Give us the highlights of those changes if you would. And I know it's been very contentious, but where have we arrived?
Yeah, I anticipated this season wouldn't have a lot of changes, but we ended up having a pretty long offseason thanks to the CTV FTL and Labor Day and stuff like that in America. So we ended up changing actually quite a bit. But so I'll just start with rule changes a little bit. There's all in the announcements channel if anybody ever needs to go to them. There's a change to the NT rules saying that MTs will be subbed out at the first opportunity when a squad member shows up. So
love that rule. Love it.
Thank you. Yeah, we had some problems with that last season. There was confusion in a match that went to overtime where Nas was actually in game, and he wasn't played in the overtime because one of their squad members showed up. So I think that rule needed to be clarified, and the NT, once their squad members show up, they need to leave the game. Appreciated, but yeah, get the regular guys in. The rule 5 changes, just encompassing those a little bit. That was some stuff just to make it a little easier on our staff. So failure to be in arena on time and ready to start, or sending in lineups
and
will have
USL Live.
consequences.
Oh my God. I need these things to start on time.
True.
Okay. So I love this rule change as well. Thank you guys for doing it. Fantastic change.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, and it's the delays were messing us up last season. It was causing some really big confusion. There were people who were genuinely trolling us, I feel like. We had a couple instances where squads were literally sitting in private arenas until 1 minute after. And we're just not gonna do that. So if you are late, you will lose a player slot. Or if you don't say you're ready, the match is gonna start if there's 7 or 8 people unspec'd anyway. So that's just going to be the way that works. There's some clarifications on the class restrictions, LMG or classic LMG, Ripper or heavy Ripper, since they're both here. Can be used, but you can only use one of those options. And then as far as Rule 7, vision bugs, there was a lot of discussion about this, how useful it was and stuff. I refuse. I mean, it's an exploit. It only favors the first squad to use it. So if it's used in the 8:45 match, no other squad can use it. There's no reason for it. It makes no sense. We'll be the only game that uses exploits and makes it part of the game. I refuse. So no, they're out. If you're in a vision bug and you don't heed the warning of the ref to get out of it, your position will be given out to the opposite team immediately, and where that bug is, so they'll know where you are. And then one of the bigger changes is the one that was kind of brought up a little bit earlier is if we have a tie, it goes to the head-to-head matches for determining the ranking. If those rankings if they were 1-1 as far as their head-to-head, it'll be based on the aggregate kills of the head-to-head matches, not of the entire season. So it'll just be the kills they have against each other.
And that's a huge change to encourage, bottom of the rosters to get subbed in. I don't blame, over 9,000 or anything to win for doing that last season. I don't blame them at all, because it came down to them getting the number 1 seed based on the choices they made. I understand that very much. This is a rule change that will incentivize people being, risking the lower people on the roster a chance to play, just because, if the win is secured, there's no reason to not go ahead and sub out, just like there is in almost every other sport. And I really like that change as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback. It became an issue where NYPD last season was on the verge of collapsing at that point. They were using 2 NTs. They were using Infinite, who was doing whatever he was doing. And they ended up throwing 140 kills up because, it was luck of the draw for ATW at the time. And again, not ATW's fault that's where it fell, but it didn't need to happen that way, I feel. So adjusting that rule makes it so, like you said, we can get some subs and get some more people playing time, and just you don't have to sweat quite as hard. So,
yeah, and if you got the game won and you know it, yes, stats on the website are still impacted, but if you want to give up your spot with 8 minutes to go in the match, there's no reason not to do that now. And I think that's a good change. It's for the better altogether.
Yeah,
I believe so as well. I think it changes a lot of sweat from the game. But Warhawks did the same thing, by the way, so don't just blame us.
Well, yeah,
Include
true,
them in that
true.
Agreed.
as well. Like them versus Nexus, they only use 8 people. They didn't use any subs.
No,
But I think
solid.
that solves a lot of it. So I'm really glad to see this. Obviously we didn't want to be doing that, but if it came to the first seed or second seed, and if that's the rules, we kind of just got to play by the rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm glad that
I don't blame HW
you can
at all.
save us from ourselves.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't blame HW at all that, and same with Warhawks. But I mean, mentioning luck of the draw was just kind of like you had the squad that was going to be like forfeiting if they didn't have 2 NTs, right? So I mean, yeah, it's there.
Something I liked in the beginning seasons of when it was mechanized skirmish league, actually that far back, was that it felt almost more like hockey than any other sport. Like you had guys that were getting rotated in depending on how somebody was playing at like the 20-minute mark or something. That happened all the time, and I really like that aspect, and I think that that's something that that USL does well that other leagues maybe don't, which is to say, you can completely change the construct of the team depending on how you're playing in the game if you need to improve or if you just can coast out the win. So
I do have one more thing that would help that even further if you guys want to hear it.
go for it.
Sure.
So in the old USL days on the old USL site, and I'm sure Champ could do this, what would happen is when you play a game and you sub out a half, there was a game counter on the right side. And it would say, say you played 2.5 games, but you actually played in 3, but you only played 2.5 worth of time. It would say 2.5 on the side. So if we had that, you could calculate, stats for awards better. And it would also encourage people to sit for their squad mates. Because I think a lot of the issues was standings, but also people want to get the most kills. And I know if they sit for 15 minutes versus Nexus, they're not going to be able to compete because it's going to look like their stats is worse because we can't see how much time they're playing the game easily. Yeah. Like there's play seconds, but it's not easy to calculate. Whereas the old USL site on the side where it's at games, it would say 2.75 games instead of however many play seconds it was. So it's something to consider too going forward. I don't know if Champ can do it easily or not. Sure, there's probably a pretty easy calculation for that, but I think that would help more people playing as well.
Also, this podcast is coincidentally the exact same comprising members of the awards committee. And last season, we did implement. What was it? Was it 6 wins, 6 games, or 7 games that we finally settled on for awards? What was it? 5? Yeah. So you just had to be present in 5 games. You didn't have to play the full 5 games, and I think that's an important distinction to make. As long as you see the field, you're eligible for an award, in my view.
Yeah.
But go ahead. We've derailed quite a bit, Bowen. Go ahead to where you were.
Oh no, you're fine. Yeah, no, it was a good conversation, honestly. So classes, a couple class changes. Again, didn't expect a whole lot to happen, but it did. Sniper got buffed. It has 100 HP. The PDW shoots further now. It goes with the pre-fire delay upgrade that happened at the beginning of last season. So Sniper's been buffed pretty much.
Are we concerned that it might be overpowered at all, or is this?
No, not yet.
Okay.
It does still one-shot each other, so if another team wants to counter snipe, they can. And it was also given 100 ammo as well for sniper bullets because the damage was lowered. It kind of made sense to do that because it runs out of ammo pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
So now whether that gets removed or not, who knows? But right now it seemed okay, and it is really map dependent, I feel like. So
okay.
But we'll see how it goes during the season. Like if we see it's broken, we'll adjust it after. So yeah. AT had its charges lowered for dash to 2 charges with a longer cooldown, I believe of 45 seconds. There was a lot of playing with this setting. It seems to be in a pretty good spot with that right now. Again, we'll see how it plays out during the season. If we don't see any play with it, we'll just push it back where it was or adjust it or adjust maybe some thrust, something. We'll figure it out. Nader was almost completely reworked. It's now a stand and shoot class. It has a longer range battle rifle, but you call it a machine rifle, I believe, which has a higher shot rate, but about the same damage as an assault rifle, and about a 10-round clip. So it's a little bit more effective as a long range class that can actually hold someone off a little bit as a defense weapon. And of course, the battle shotgun was tested. It was completely broken, and we pulled it out. So That thing was absolutely brutal.
It was so fun. Please,
Made
please,
it one night before it got taken down.
That thing was absolutely brutal.
I think there's more experimentation to come with the Grenadier, but I really like the idea that we're looking at that class and reworking it. You know, that was my first class I played in Skirmish League. It has a big part of my heart. And I think, you know, it's a class that has always been a central part of Skirmish. And I really think that we should work on finding some way to integrate it into the starting lineup of maybe not every squad, but at least one or two squads every season.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I think it's very map dependent. I mean, on EC, I think it works great.
Right.
So, right. And then
you can't use Nader on AR like Swash all used to.
Right, exactly. And then Heavy Ripper was also buffed a bit to give it a little bit faster of a fire rate and a little bit tighter of a spread, but still make it so it's not as useful at about mid-range, so that it separates it a bit from the pass-through Ripper as more of a close-range class. I still feel like the pass-through Ripper is superior, but it's seen some use in some scrims, so we'll see how it goes. I think that was it for classes. I don't think I'm missing anything there.
So I got a message about this. Can I get some clarification on something that you said?
Sure.
You said that Ripper and LMG, is it the way you phrased it? You could only play one of those, or could you?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. It was classic LMG or Ripper or Heavy Ripper. And
wait, so classic LMG is available to be played?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you can play it. Somebody played it last season. Like it was played in a match last season.
I mean, that was MP. We don't count that. But, okay, so I could play classic LMG.
Also, it's just really bad, so there's no reason to ban it.
Yeah, classic LMG is trash anyway. So
yeah, 100%. So can I play LMG and classic LMG together?
No, you can only play LMG or classic LMG.
Why is this league not fun? Look, I was cooking some shit right there with Double Ripper, and y'all just destroyed.
But I mean, ultimately, you could have a Grenadier, a Sniper, an LMG, a Ripper, and then Marine and two medics, right?
Rob, I want past the Ripper, Heavy Ripper.
I'm just saying you could do. There's no limit on the total number of independent classes. You just can't double up on Rippers and you can't double up on LMGs.
Right.
This league sucks.
Absolutely not.
No fun allowed. This is why I don't want to make a squad, because I can't do fun stuff.
Horrible.
Thank you, Bowen. All right, I'll be quiet again.
You're good.
I'm upset.
Map selection is being done a certain way this year.
Here we are. We've arrived.
I said I was going to shut up, but boo. It sucks.
I knew it was coming. It's all right. I mean, so it was voted. It was polled by captains. Not even polled. It was actually independently asked.
And here's the problem: Yosh is a totalitarian. He's an absolute authoritarian. He thinks that there should be an oligarchy going on in a unified skirmish league.
100%.
Rule of a few, maybe 3 or 4 at the most. Anything outside of that is unacceptable. Meanwhile, we believe in democracy. We believe in direct democracy and voting on what happens in your league. And that's what's happened here. And you ended up with this map selection, and now Yosh is saying, I'm sorry, I need my Stalin.
This is trash. This season's format is awful.
To be fair, I kind of agree with it. I don't like the maps that have been selected.
Even our admin agrees that the people got it wrong.
As the people have spoken, that is where I have
the people need to not have a voice. Where's Eric when you need him? Sippy cup.
To be fair, also, Eric had more polls than I did in season 22, which is interesting to look at. You look at the history of polls, I think he actually did more polls than I did.
Eric is changing his name over and over again. He should go to Tyrant. That would be fantastic. Right. That'd be a great next final destination for him.
Yeah, but Eric, he didn't abide by the polls in a lot of cases. He held.
That's true.
He had the final authority, right?
He said, I don't like that poll. Overridden.
Authoritarian.
Bowen, I want to see you go. No, y'all got it wrong on this case. Invalid poll. Boom. 6 maps this season. Deal with it, nerds.
The illusion of truth. The illusion of choice. Yes.
100%. That's what that's how I like my politics right there. The illusion of choice.
So
absolutely.
Maps, go ahead. What do we got this season?
So right now we've got KR Revised is our first map. It'll be the first and third week. It looks like as of today, the KS10 map will be set weeks 2 and 5. That one was winning the poll. It's been up for about 4 days. I think that's enough time. The third map there's some discussion. It's going to be a newer map. So we have to figure out which one that is between OD, Mountains, and CV. There's some discussions going back and forth between captains whether Mountains map is ready to go. I defer to a lot of different opinions. I might just throw it up in the poll and see where it goes, but I need to see. Yeah, I need to see where that. I might honestly narrow down another one just to see where it falls as far as like, do we include it? Like, it might need another season to cook, because we're still making changes to it, and we're now 6 days before season start. So we'll see. But it'll be a newer map.
Well, fortunately,
OD,
it'll be the
CV,
end of the
and
season,
Mountains.
though, won't it?
Yes, that's
Okay.
the thing is I do have
Yeah.
some time with it. It's the 3rd and 6th.
Yeah, so we got several weeks to decide it, and you know, it's also going to be put up to a vote, as you're saying, and the results of that vote will be honored.
Yep.
Okay. And how is it? Is it? Am I reading this right? There's like an OG map selection first, and there's kind of a second generation map, and then there's a new map. Is that kind of 1, 2, 3?
Kind
Or-
of, yeah. That's kind of what it turned into. It was classic maps, which was that first 4 polls.
Mhm.
And then there's the new age polls that kind of had UD and CV in it. But CV actually got a lot of votes. It was actually leading the poll for the first day and a half, I think. Before KS10 took over. So honestly, if we
And
do
good job,
fall
community,
into-
because KS10's amazing as a map.
I like the map personally, yeah.
Yeah, Kiss has the best.
See, a lot of people do like the map, and so like a lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it. It is kind of a little bit polarizing, but it got a lot of attention. And UD is a season older than CV, so I think if it falls out, it might become, because it got so much attention, it might fall into that poll with the newer maps being OD and Mountain.
Okay. Well, so for maps, any other comments on that, or any other updates you need to let us know about?
Probably, but I don't think so right now.
Okay.
So-
Okay. All right. Well, anybody have any final comments before we wrap up the preview show?
Yeah, I heard there was a new map called EC that needs to be added to the final pool. Like, and for God's sakes, Bowen, stop holding the boys.
It's so
It was
new.
the flaw.
It's so new. Everybody just wants to go home, Yosh included.
Yeah.
He just wants to go back to EC.
Next season, it'll be on a wheel. I'm serious. I'm doing a randomized setup. I'm just going to throw them all on wheels, and nobody's going to fucking pick anything.
I would take that above what we have now.
Cheering for the authoritarian per usual. Yosh, that'll do it for the season 24 preview show. We need your help to make season 24 happen. The USL staff could still use some assistance, specifically if we had volunteers for 1 or 2 more referees to really take the pressure off the current staff. That would be huge, particularly as we have 5 games being played per Sunday now, as opposed to 3. So if you're available to be a referee, we could use your help for sure. Second, USL Live co-hosts. I would love to have you join me in the broadcast booth for USL Live. If you're interested in talking about the game on a recorded broadcast, whether it be calling the game in a play-by-play or just contributing as a color commentator, please send me a private message or on Discord or in the game. I'd love to get you a game or two to see how you enjoy it. And it'd be a great help to me, and it would keep the USL Live community for the community and by the community. I want to say congratulations to the squad members of Care Bear Countdown. Decker and his team last night won the first ever Free Infantry Captional Flag Draft League Championship. Pretty incredible game with a lot of action. For a guy who doesn't play or watch CTF, I found it very entertaining and looking forward to the continued success and the start of Season 2, which I'm told will begin immediately following the conclusion of USL Season 24. I'd also like to issue a big thank you to Biso, Hearthbull, and Albert for having Bowen and myself on the pregame show last night before the championship match to plug Season 24 and to encourage more crossover play and assistance between CTF and Skirmish League zones. Also want to encourage people for information regarding schedules, rosters, forums, or to sign up to play in Season 24. Visit uslzone.com. Check out our videos on the Free Infantry online YouTube page for clips and games or clips of this game we love, again, made by our community. Want to say thank you to my co-hosts of this show. That'd be Mecca, Yosh, Bowen, Splittah, Thank you all you guys for joining me on this first preview show for season 24. Want to say thank you to our executive producer and the creator of both Urban Decay and the revised Crimson Valley maps, that is Military Police. This has been Romulocks, and you've been listening to USL Season 24 Preview Show. See you in the dropship.